Hi, I'm Gemma Atkinson.
And I'm Sanderson, the Editor-in-Chief of Women's Health.
We've just recorded another episode of Just As Well with the beautiful Leanne Hainsby.
Love to.
And I don't know about Peloton. Well, I didn't know about Peloton. I do now.
Yeah.
What a woman.
What a woman. So I do know about Peloton. I've had a Peloton bike for years, since the very beginning of lockdown. I'm very devoted to the platform and the classes, etc. So that's how I first came across Leanne, just from seeing her on my screen. But I then put her on the cover of Women's Health in 2023 because she had just come through a breast cancer battle. And I remember at the time being shocked when I saw the picture that she posted on Instagram to announce that she was going through chemo. I remember it vividly. She was in bed and she had the cold cap on, and she was, a cold cap is something that you can wear to try and reduce hair loss when you're going through chemo. And she was hooked up to machines. And I remember literally being flabbergasted that this woman, whom is a picture of beauty and health on the Peloton screen, had been going through
poorly.
cancer. Had been so poorly. And her story is one of tragedy, because shortly before she was diagnosed, her best friend died, but ultimately of strength and positivity, and how she's come through the other end to be the remarkable woman that you met today.
Yeah, I was really... This was the first episode that made me tear up. She spoke so openly about her breast cancer diagnosis, like you say, her best friend passing away, her miscarriage, the fact that she carried on with Peloton, how her and Ben got together through Peloton, through the love of exercise, her experience as a dancer, again, which I didn't know anything about, and how she's looking forward to the future with her pregnancy and she's no longer poorly. It's just, she's beautiful.
Even if you don't do Peloton, it's a worthwhile listen,
yes,
isn't it? Because
definitely.
it's just
very
an
inspiring.
amazing, inspiring story of what one woman has been through, the hardships and tragedy, and the resolve that she pulled upon, and the mental strength that she said she had to create and go to when the going got tough to survive the really, really difficult journey that she's had to experience.
Very inspirational lady. We hope you enjoy this episode. You can maybe listen to it on your Peloton. Why not? Welcome back to another episode of Just As Well. Now, today's guest, if you're a fan of Peloton, you'll be very, very excited. We have the one and only Leanne Hainsby. She is Peloton royalty, and she's a women's health advocate and wellness entrepreneur. She's a professional dancer as well, and she was Peloton's first UK female instructor, and she's now one of the most popular instructors globally. A former Women's Health cover star, she bravely spoke recently about her breast cancer battle 2 years ago, and honestly, you've helped so many people talking about that. It's brilliant. She also ran the London Marathon, raising money for breast cancer charities, and she raised more than £50,000, making her the third highest fundraiser for the marathon. I mean, that in itself is incredible. Thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
It's a real honour. I know you're...
Super
you're obsessed
excited.
with Peloton,
I'm a long-time Peloton fan, which Leanne knows.
I do know.
I've had the bike since before lockdown, and I've been to quite a few of your live classes.
You're very good on the bike, Claire.
Oh, well, I try. But going to you have amazing studios in Covent Garden, which is near where we're recording today, and having that live experience, I do feel very lucky to have been there. We've done the Take That ride, I think.
Yeah.
And we did a pop ride recently.
Yeah, the pop ride was super fun.
Yeah, so I love doing them then on the bike and trying to spot. But it's fun to
You're
spot
like, "There
people
I
I
am."
know. Yeah.
So I'm really new to Peloton. I know what the Peloton bike is, but I've not done any of the classes. So you're saying now the Take That, the pop. I'm assuming that's the music and style.
Yes.
Can you explain what it is for people who aren't aware?
Yeah, so for people that don't know what Peloton is, it's connected fitness, basically. So I am the instructor on the screen. So basically you'll have the bike and then there's a screen, and we will either record content on our own in the studio or with members in the studio with us, and then that content is streamed globally, either to a live schedule or an on-demand schedule. So there's over 6 million members.
Wow.
You can have thousands of people doing a workout at the same time. People are in different time zones. Have people on the leaderboard from all over America, Australia, Hawaii, London, Canada,
That's
all at the same
brilliant.
time, and they're having the same fitness experience. But what's really cool is that we partner with different artists and bands, and so when Claire was talking about like the Take That ride, it's all the music you love from a particular artist. I've just recently done a Bee Gees ride, so we went back a bit to the
Love
70s,
that.
but it's all the music you love, like back to back, and it just steps the workout up a bit. It's just a bit,
Makes it more fun.
it makes it more fun.
Yeah.
It's just like nostalgic with the music and the memories, and really just gives people like a bit. Everyone will always say it's the bike that goes nowhere but goes everywhere, and I think the music and those elements of it just really separate it from a standard fitness class.
Yeah, and it's like for those who have, I mean, I've got a stationary bike at home. It's not a Peloton, but it is hard sometimes to get into the motivation aspect and get going and know when to, you know, turn it up a bit and sit down and stand up. So if you have the trainer
Yeah.
on the screen, like you say, it's a PT in your living room.
Yeah, and also when people are time poor or they've got busy lives, that time of like travelling to a gym or travelling to a boutique studio and taking a class and trying to have that feeling of the motivation and someone telling them what to do, there's not always the time for that, or people aren't always confident to do that in a studio. So bringing it into people's homes has just changed the game, I think.
For me, Peloton, because there's all different classes on there, isn't there? There's
Yeah.
strength and Pilates, and I do a lot of the strength classes. But if there's a day where I really know I can't be bothered, and if I start lifting weights, I will just stop, I do a Peloton ride class, because once you're on that bike and the music, and I love the 80s rides or the EDM rides I like. I love the 80s rides if you don't want to, you know, really push yourself, but you want to move your body and have a bit of a
Yeah.
laugh, and I'm there dancing
Yeah.
along, singing,
It's
know.
fun
Yeah.
and it's fitness and it can boost your mood, and that's just as important as,
Yeah.
you know, lifting a weight. To have 30 minutes where, you know, mentally you feel better after, or lighter, or just have a bit more joy in your day. Like, that's the magic of it. That's, I think, what we as coaches try and give to the members every day.
I am tempted to try it, genuinely.
Well, next time
Well,
you're
you
down,
can come in to the studio whenever
Yeah.
you want. I'd love to have you in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be good. Because I'm not really, I hate running, and I'm not a really great cyclist in terms of, I was telling Claire, I had my first experience last night on a line bike in London, and I didn't realise that it's not just pedal, it's a bit electric.
Yeah.
And I set off, and a bus went past, and someone stepped out in the road. I was like, no, I'm done. Get me
Yeah,
off.
you're
I
like,
was a
this is
BMXer
not for
as
me.
a kid, yeah, but now, as I've got older, so the
Yeah.
idea of stationary bike with an instructor with 80s music,
feel safe.
I'm all for.
Yeah.
I like it.
Good fun. Well, we'll go next time you're down to record
Yeah.
these. I'll
go.
Leanne can hit us up. Yeah.
But
we'll
you,
head up.
is it true you started as a dancer though when you were really young?
Yeah.
That's your background.
Yeah, I started dancing at 3.
Wow.
And my sister my sister always danced, and then she went on to become a professional dancer. My mum had danced when she was younger, and so for me it was just a given. Like, I was always going to go into dancing. And I would say by the time I got to about 8, it was like pretty serious for me. It was more than just like a hobby after school. My sister at that point had gone to performing arts college. I already felt like that's something that I wanted to do. I was doing dance competitions at the weekends. I was going to dancing like every night after school, and then all day on a Saturday. And I just was taking it seriously from that young age. And then I actually did a 3-year course at the Royal Ballet as a junior associate, which actually, ballet wasn't really my thing. I just auditioned because it was, you know, it would have been a really cool thing to be part of. And so I auditioned, and then I got it. And I wasn't sure that ballet was the direction I wanted to go in. And at the end of the 3-year course, 1, my body said, you're not going to be a ballerina. And 2, it just wasn't for me. I wanted to go into the commercial side, the pop stuff. And so I danced all throughout my teenage years as well. And then as soon as I could leave school at 16, I went to performing arts college, and then 3 years there, and then into a just over an 11-year career as a professional dancer before Peloton.
So you've always had that activity, as in you've always been sporty, active.
Yeah.
You've always taken care of yourself through something you love doing.
Yeah, loved sports. My dad always had me out on the bike, or I'd always be on the monkey bars in the park, and I just was super, super active as a kid, and then was doing my dancing and was loving it. And I don't really remember a life not knowing, well, I just don't really remember a life with it not being all about finishing school, quickly putting my hair in a bun and going to dancing, and that being like my happy place.
And you ended up dancing for Taylor Swift, Kylie Minogue.
Yeah, I had I think in hindsight, I bigged my dance career up more, because I really, looking back, I'm like, I did some incredible things. But when you're in it, you're trying to pay your bills, you're going from job to job, you are always chasing the next thing. You know, if you get to a place where you're doing really well as a dancer, it's always about the next gig. And so when I was in it, I was having some amazing experiences. I'd do a lot of Saturday night TV shows and backing dancing, and I'd tour a lot with artists. But I was in it, and I was super present and loving it as I went through the years of dancing professionally. But I think it's only when you step away and you look back that you're like, wow, some of these moments were like absolutely incredible. Like, for example, we went to watch Coldplay, me and my husband, last week, and I danced for Coldplay at the Paralympic closing ceremonies in London back in 2012, and at the time that was just like one gig in the summer. But then listening to the music again and feeling nostalgic and remembering those moments, it's like there's been some really cool things that I've done along the way, and it was all I ever wanted to do. And I feel really grateful that by the time I moved into Peloton, I had ticked off the majority of the things that I had wanted to do as a dancer, apart from Spice Girls, which then...
you love Spice Girls.
I love
don't
Spice
you?
Girls.
Yeah.
And then I joined Peloton, and a year later, Spice Girls went on tour, and I was like, oh
no.
missed opportunity. But a lot of my friends did it, so I got to go and support and love it through their eyes. So, yeah, I did some really cool things in my dance career that I will always hold like so close to my heart.
You get used to living out of a suitcase as well as a dancer. My fella's, he tours a lot, and
he'll totally get it, the suitcase life.
He packs for our holidays because he's like, I'm the best.
Does he like it, living out the suitcase?
Yeah.
Because I weirdly
He
used to
loves
really
it.
like it, because I
Yeah.
was like, the way my brain works, I don't ever know what I want to wear, and it always takes me so long. And when you're living out of a suitcase, it's like, well, I've only got that.
This is what you have. And he's very efficient at, like, I'll just throw anything in and it's like a big mound and it can match suitcase and never shut. He'll do everything neat. He has sections.
Oh yeah, packing cubes, all that jazz.
he does it like that. Brilliant.
I love that.
That's from his dance background.
Yeah.
So when you were asked to join Peloton, obviously it's a massive, massive deal, you know, the UK's first female instructor. Was it an instant yes, or how did you even get scouted for it? How did that come about?
So at the time, I was still dancing, and I was on tour with a 90s band called Steps. And
Steps.
Yes. And I was teaching spin classes at a boutique studio in London. At this point, I was kind of like just getting into my 30s. I was in a really bad relationship. I'd kind of lost the love for dancing for no other reason really than I'd done everything that I wanted to do. The money felt like it was getting less and less. I was always away and missing birthdays and weddings, and I was just losing the love for it a little bit. And so I really found passion in some of these boutique classes that I started going to, loved them, and then started teaching. And one of the US instructors, Cody Rigsby, just turned up at one of my classes. I'd had a really, I'd been out the night before, wasn't feeling my most fresh, but I just remembered seeing him and thinking, he feels like he's someone I'm going to do a really good class. And then he stopped me after and said, you know, can we grab a coffee? And I couldn't. I was going off to teach another class, and then he flew back to New York, and I just felt like it. I didn't really think about it, to be honest.
Yeah.
And then another one of the US instructors reached out to me on Instagram, basically saying that they'd like me to fly to New York and audition for Peloton. And at the time, I didn't know what Peloton was because it wasn't a thing here. And the only thing I knew about spin was SoulCycle in the US. And so I was a bit dubious, but I thought, well, I've actually got a few days off of the tour. I could fly out secretly, really quickly, audition, and fly back. And so I did. And the audition went really well. I loved it. I loved everyone there. And then, you know, a few more parts of the process, and I was offered the role as the first female UK instructor. And it just, like, timing-wise, it just worked out really well. I hadn't been feeling that happy in my dance career. I was quite happy to wrap up on Steps being my last dance job. I was moving to New York for 3 months to then train for Peloton. It just felt like
The right time.
the right time, and it was a lot of hard work. Like, Peloton was already flying in New York, and I had a lot to learn, and it felt like quite a big weight to kind of bring that back to the UK and try and make it a success back here, but also, like, equally so exciting and a new chapter that I was, like, desperately wanting to go into. So timing wise, that's one of those things that I feel like I really welcomed that in. I'd been saying to my parents I didn't want to dance anymore, and they were like, okay, so what are you going to do next? No, like, not pressuring me, but just like excited, like, okay, what would be next? What are the transferable skills? And I really didn't know. I just felt really confident that something was going to come to me that I didn't know what it was, but I just felt like something would. So the Peloton thing for me was like the perfect thing at the perfect time.
So it wasn't in the UK. You helped launch it in the UK.
Yeah, it was in New York.
Yeah.
It had been going in New York for a few years. It was super, super successful, especially in Manhattan. And we were launching it. And I say we, me and Ben being the other UK instructor who is now my husband. And we brought it back to the UK with a really, really small team and started to build Peloton up. And we launched it in the UK in late 2018. And we spent about a year explaining to anyone who would listen to us, Peloton is the bike with the screen and this is what it is, and just trying desperately to, you know, make it a success and grow it from the ground up, which was something I'd actually never experienced in my career. I always fitted in to, you know, a dance job, or I was dancing behind the artist, or you'd come in at the last minute. And so to be part of something that we were building here from scratch was invaluable, really.
And you were, like, you and your hubby were at the forefront of it, and it wouldn't have been the case, but I guess in your mind, you're thinking, if this fails in the UK, we're the faces of it. So it's a lot of pressure, because either it would have been behind the scenes, the big guys in New York running it and helping you, but if people recognise your faces, if it failed, you know, it would have been on you. So it's a huge pressure, and I mean, it's a huge success. Everyone, you know, raves about it now who does it. But was there pressure as well? In the beginning, it didn't actually feel like there was much pressure because it was so fun and it was kind of scrappy. We were just doing our best and just seeing what would land, and we were working from, I do remember one of the guys that helped to train me back in New York was like, we're getting you a central London location and it's going to be so fab. And then we ended up way out east in Bromley by Bow, and we had a really cool little space, but it was like, this is not central London. And we basically built a makeshift studio within a warehouse, and it was just really thrown together, and we were just giving it a really, really good go with a really small team that were just equally as excited about the opportunity as we were.
And it really was when we got to the pandemic that the pressure stepped up, because that's when Peloton, you know, really, really took off in the UK. And that's when the pressure started, because it was like, oh, wow, there's now, we were excited if there were 100 people on the leaderboard, and now there's 10,000 for a class. And that was a really fast jump when life was really uncertain for everyone. So that's when the pressure kicked in. It was a good pressure, but it was still a big shock.
Yeah.
Because I first got my bike at the very beginning of the pandemic. I think it had been ordered before, but then it was delayed because, you know, none of us could go out. And I remember it being delivered at a point where things could be delivered, but the delivery men had masks on and they have to have the windows open and you weren't allowed to go within 10 feet of them and all this. So my first classes were when all the instructors were at home.
Yeah.
And you and Ben were living together, unbeknown to the Peloton audience. But that's how it first came to light that you were a couple, because people clocked that even though you were trying to change the shelf in the background, people clocked that there was a similar background going on here.
That is always so funny, and something that people ask me and Ben about all the time. So Ben and I had been a couple for about a year or so before that. And we'd kept it quiet because it really didn't have anything to do with trying to launch Peloton and wanting it to be a success. And we just wanted to figure out, you know, if we wanted to be in the relationship before we, before we shared it. Yeah. And then we got to lockdown, and like Claire said, we were teaching these classes from home, and we had a full studio set up. I mean, it was really funny because we'd be teaching a live class, there'd be like 10,000 people on the leaderboard, and Ben would be crawling along the floor making sure all the wires were right, the connection was right, that I was still live, that everything was going well. And we'd be so nervous because at the time everyone was having 100 Amazon deliveries a day, so I thought the doorbell was going to go, and it was chaos. But the way the studio was set up, we just had one corner, and for us, we wanted to display our personalities in that corner, so we changed the shelves about. But I guess outwardly it looked like we were trying to pretend we weren't in the same room.
Yes.
So I think the Peloton members took a lot of enjoyment kind of sussing out that this was in fact the same room and we weren't fooling anyone. But yeah, that's when that was a really interesting time, giving up our spare room to be,
because it was a small flat. Studio. I remember you telling me it was a really small flat, wasn't it?
Yeah, Ben and I moved in quite quickly after we started dating, and we decided we were living in a really small apartment in Holborn that lacked any personality, but we thought, if this doesn't work out, we've got a small 2-bed apartment, one of us can move out, the other one can get a friend to move in. But it didn't like scream love or next chapter or anything like that. And so when we went into lockdown and then we gave up one of our rooms to be the studio, we then had everything else in the hallway, and it was no outside space. It was quite intense. We were like, when can we go back to the studio, please?
And at a time as well when you couldn't even really go out other than to walk.
We would open one window in our kitchen that overlooked an office block and just like dangle out of that to try and get like
fresh air,
a bit of fresh air. But it was definitely a time, but we were grateful when that chapter closed, for sure.
And it's so nice now that because you've obviously both got the same interests, and it's so nice now that you've got each other throughout your career as well. Because a lot of the time people say, oh, you shouldn't work with your partner, it's too much. But I think in your line of work, because you're doing something that makes you both individually feel good with the endorphins and the sweating, I guess there's none of that. It's just fun.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think, because when I haven't ever really known this role without it being connected to being in a relationship with Ben. We met at the beginning in New York. We built a really gorgeous friendship. When we came back to London, we decided to give it a go. And so the two have always been super entwined. And it's that we've got really similar values. We have the same goals and the same purpose when it comes to the Peloton members and the way we coach and teach our classes. Although they're very different and we're very different instructors, the big goal is still the same. And so it's a bit of a strange job to have. So it works really well for us that we're in it together.
Yeah.
And yeah, we do have a lot of fun. We're 7 years into it and we still really, really love it. I get excited about certain class plans and meeting the members and the growth of the business still. So it's to feel like that 7 years in I like that feeling.
Yeah.
Because Leanne, we've known each other for several years now, since your Women's Health cover.
I know.
And I would describe you as one of the most positive, sparkly people I know. The Leanne Hainsby on screen on those rides is the Leanne Hainsby of real life. It's not an act, it's just how you are.
That's so nice, thank you. I appreciate that.
And I saw firsthand just how popular you are last year when we went to Cannes together. Do you remember?
Yes.
And you brought
We had a
Robin
great
up.
time.
We did. Although I didn't party quite as much as you. But you brought Robin Oz on, who people will know is a very famous, one of the founders, isn't she, of Peloton, and Ali Love. And you literally caused a stampede. People were so excited that you three were in the room. And it's when it really hit home just how popular you guys are. So you seem to have the perfect life, but you have had struggles. And not one of the reasons, but just before you were on your Women's Health cover, you'd been through breast cancer.
Yeah.
And you had a really challenging time. Your best friend passed away. You'd had a miscarriage, and then weeks later you were diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah. I loved that cover, by the way. That cover for me was like a real kind of step forward from a really dark chapter, and it was so all the disco balls that I had, it was so perfect, and really was one of the first times that I felt like me again. But that chapter before the cover shoot was 2022, which was just a really tough year for me, and within 6 months I'd had a miscarriage. My best friend had died really suddenly, and less than a month later I'd been diagnosed with breast cancer. And it was just like one thing after another. Really, really tough. Definitely felt like I was at rock bottom, and it's hard to kind of process one of those traumas when you're on to the next one and then trying to process that. And my treatment plan for the breast cancer diagnosis that I had was quite long. It's like 2 years of treatment, and that looked like 3 months of chemo and then surgery and then radiotherapy and then onto maintenance drugs. And I was doing all of that whilst trying to kind of get through, I guess, or process a traumatic grief, which is different to just your regular grief. And it really was, I learned a lot from that year, and I think I am who I am today because of that year. Everything I've done from 2022 onwards is shaped by those experiences, and everything I do is to honour Danielle. But that was, I think up until that point, life had been like on the up. You know, I'd had this amazing job. I'd met Ben. We were engaged. We'd moved into a new home. We were just like, life felt really, really perfect. And we wanted to start a family. And then it just felt like it all started like crumbling one by one. And I think being a few years on from that time now, I don't actually know how I got through that year, but at the time, and it wasn't just that year, it was, you know, it's been every year since, because there's always things to think about and things that come up and firsts and health anxiety once you've been through cancer treatment. Like, there's so much involved in just milestones that happen. But I think at the time I remember having a cancer nurse who said to me very, very early on, like literally just after I'd been diagnosed, which is a terrifying moment when you're in a small room with a consultant who is confirming that, you know, you have breast cancer. And I was in the room with my mum and Ben, and it was really, really tough. And I had a cancer nurse who said to me, your body will go through whatever it needs to go through. But considering what you've just been through before this and what you're about to go through, this is going to be a mental game for you. So you need to focus on keeping up here as strong as you can. And I just remembered thinking, okay, that is something I can do. And so that's how, kind of, from that moment onwards, that's how I showed up to the rest of that year, and that's how I've continued to show up since.
And did you continued Peloton, did you, through this?
Yeah, I did. And I think sometimes it's really hard because I took some time off after the miscarriage, and not long after my best friend died, and I took some time off then. But it was like I needed some routine. I was at that place where I needed some focus, I needed some routine. And I thought, when it came to my Peloton classes, I wasn't sure whether I would lose my hair or not. I used something called a cold cap, so I was able to keep half of my hair. I lost half of my hair, but I was able to kind of, I think if you look back to some of the classes now, it was definitely clear that I was poorly, but it was gradual, and I think people were just, I've only recently shared about the miscarriage, but I had shared about losing Danielle, and so I think people, were just giving me grace. No one was saying anything, even though I was looking unwell, if I look back at pictures now or class content. But teaching the classes was really, really important to me because it gave me a space where I wasn't a cancer patient. It gave me an hour in the day where I could be sparkly, where I could focus on other people, I could bring joy to other people, I could be myself and not someone who was, really feeling very down after losing their best friend and going through cancer treatment. And so for me, it was less about trying to be a hero and continue life as completely normal, and more about a bit of a survival instinct, really, which was just to hold on to as much of me as I possibly could. And I always give that advice to anyone who's going through cancer treatment now, like, always find the moments that you can be yourself, because otherwise it's so easy to lose yourself, because cancer can become a full-time job. It's the medication, it's going into the hospital, it's the consultants. For me, it's the oncologist as well. It's all of those things. And so having a space where it was just me in a studio or me with members, just being able to have some fun was really, really vital. And then when I got to the end of my chemo, I knew that the chemo had worked, so I knew that we were looking at a cure as opposed to just ongoing treatment. I felt confident enough to share publicly then that I'd been going through chemo and I was on a journey with breast cancer. But I think for me, one of the big things is that I've learned along the way is that you have to share when you're ready. And that's been a rule of thumb for me, I think, over the last few years. Like, I don't share things in real time. I wait till maybe the moment's passed. I've processed it in a way that I feel good within my emotions and my energy before I let anyone else in. Otherwise, it's just all too consuming. So this was just something I learnt going through that part of the journey that made me feel kind of safe within my own bubble. But also, when I was ready to share, I was ready to then try and help other women or other people in whatever way I could. But I just needed to know first that I would be okay.
It's so admirable, honestly. Like, listen to you. Like, I can't imagine going through just one of those things, and the fact that you had literally all three in a year, and the fact that you speak so openly about it. I mean, it's really,
had a lot of therapy.
No, but honestly, like, because in just one chat with us now, you're helping 3 different groups of people.
Yeah.
Those that have currently miscarried or lost someone close to them or are dealing with treatment. So yeah, it's really admirable. It's made me teary-eyed, genuinely. You really have.
Recovering from cancer, it's the long game, isn't it? Did you make lifestyle changes to expedite the process, or maybe future-proof yourself for longevity, etc.?
Do you know what? I was really, to say grateful is probably the wrong word, but to have an opportunity where the only option was to have a lifestyle overhaul, I was grateful for, because, the month after Danielle died, before I went into my treatment, it was very, very dark, and just be with my friends, and we'd be eating rubbish food, and we'd be drinking, and there was no real routine or anything. We were just sad and shocked, and there was a lot of trauma. And so when it came to being diagnosed and then going through my treatment, it was like, I don't want to live like that. I want to change everything. I stopped drinking, which actually was something that I had wanted to do anyway. I didn't have a problem with drinking. I didn't think it was doing me any good. I didn't think I was the best version of myself. I didn't feel like I was as productive. And this was before Danielle. This was just kind of how I was feeling. And I had been pregnant, and I had had that experience of not drinking for nearly 3 months, and I had liked that version of myself. And so I had wanted to get back to that. And I think the thing for me, that lifestyle overhaul, so I worked with a nutritionist when I went into my cancer journey, and she specialised in young women going through breast cancer. So she was so specific to my needs, and to be fueling myself in the right way for different parts. And the way I fueled myself looked different, from chemo to surgery to radiotherapy, heavy focus on reducing inflammation in the body, and just really trying to get as many nutrients as I could through colour and variation on the plate. But not drinking, moving my body, doing things that made me feel like me, really focusing on rest, drowning out any outside noise, walking a lot, and just having therapy and the nutritionist. It sounds like a lot, but those were the things at the time that were dragging me out of a dark hole and putting me on a path that was able to tackle the kind of onslaught of things that were happening in 2022. And I ended up feeling as kind of healthy as I could going through my cancer treatment, and I really think that's to do with how I was showing up for myself. And so that's just kind of how I've continued to lead my life since. And I now know what it feels like to be at rock bottom and to feel completely rubbish and void of any energy, and losing muscle mass, and having chemo drugs in your body, and recovering from surgery, and having mobility issues after because of the surgery, and radiotherapy will do that as well. And so the focus on feeling as good as I possibly could, that I could control. And I really, that to me was also part of the mental part of it, the mental game. These were things I could control. I couldn't control all of the cancer drugs and how they were making me feel, but I could control how I supported my body. And so that's just something that I still to this day is a huge passion of mine, because I want to continue feeling as good as I possibly can. It's kind of a nice addictive feeling to just feel as good as you deserve to feel.
It's like they always say, don't they, food is medicine.
Yeah.
With each meal you think to yourself, is this going to fuel me, or is this going to mess with me when it comes to your plate?
And it's a mindset shift. So you can think in two very different ways. You can feel like you're being deprived because you can't have a burger and chips and pizza every night, or you can feel like you're empowering yourself and supporting your body because you're choosing a different option.
Yeah.
It's just how you look at it. And for me, it was like, well, it really was very black and white. It's like, I don't want to die, so I'm going to support my body as best I can. And that kind of, when that's your choice, the food choices and the way you support yourself becomes a lot easier.
Yeah, it makes such a difference.
It makes
to
such
your
a
mood,
difference.
your energy, and clearly it did with you because you ran the London Marathon.
Yeah,
How was that?
I did. I ran the London Marathon a year after I was still on my maintenance treatment, so a drug called tamoxifen, which a lot of people going through breast cancer will be aware of. And when I was going through my treatment, I really had like so many epiphanies, and I was just thinking about so much, and I'd always told myself I couldn't run. And when I was younger, I loved running. When I was at school, I would always run the 200 metres. Like, that was my race. And I'd always win it. And I was like, I love running. And then I kind of stopped running as a teenager and into my 20s. And then when I joined Peloton, there were some serious runners there. And I think I just lost my confidence with it even more. So when I was going through my treatment, it was all about, like, what are the limits that I've been putting on myself that I want to start removing when I get through this. And running was one of them. And so I thought, I'm going to run the London Marathon, because I've always lived in London and I've always been to support the marathon, and I've always thought everyone that's done it has been amazing. I just didn't ever feel like I had enough of a reason or a big enough cause for me to want to run that distance.
Yeah.
But I thought this was my time to do it. So yeah, I gave it a go. It wasn't easy, and
Imagine
I think I'm one and done. But
I did it the
No,
same
you
year.
did it,
Claire
yeah.
did it the
Bloody
same
awful.
year.
Would you do it again?
Nope.
Would
No.
you do it again?
I always say no, but I think I would maybe do it again in a few years. Ben ran it as well. We started off, I was like, please run it with me. He ran like the first 10 steps with me, and then he was off. And I remember seeing my nephew like halfway round the course, and he was like, Ben finished an hour ago.
Oh,
and
you're
I was
like,
like,
"Thank
great,
you."
thanks for that. I've got like another
Bully
2
for Ben.
hours to go. Yeah, I've got another 2 hours. But we ran for a charity called Breast Cancer Now. We raised a ton of money, and that was a really amazing moment. And when I did share my story about going through cancer, I really wanted to give back. I wasn't sharing to be a victim. I wasn't sharing to just be like, poor me. I was sharing because I was like, this is why I'm sharing. I want to give back. I want to raise awareness. And this felt like one of those moments where I could do that. And so for me, it wasn't about the time. It was about enjoying the moment. It was about running again. It was about removing that limit. And I really enjoyed it. I would like to do it again and maybe just get my head down and just like, not just do it for myself. But I felt very, very proud of the moment. And when I saw the finish line, I was like,
And
thank
it is
you.
the longest 200 metres, isn't it, when you're coming down the mile and you're like,
and everyone's
why is
like,
that not getting any closer?
It doesn't get closer.
I
And
know.
everyone's like, yeah, you got to sprint that last bit.
Yeah.
I was like,
No,
no.
I'm not
And
sprinting.
that's where there's
no.
more spectators, isn't there, as well? So you feel like, I mean, the furthest I've run is a 10K, and that was horrendous. But I remember the end of the 10K, everyone's cheering. So you think, if I walk now,
Yeah.
I'm going to look ridiculous. So I can
Yeah.
imagine after a marathon, it's even more intense.
Awful. I remember when they put the medal over your your head, and they those people, even though they've done it thousands of times,
Yeah.
they treat you like it's the first time. They're like, Claire, you've done it. You've
Did
done
you
it.
cry then?
And I was like, just give me the medal.
Yeah.
Like, I was
Get me on.
beyond
Yeah.
humouring anyone, being fun. I just wanted that medal. I wanted to be out
Yeah.
of there.
Really?
It's really
I can
tough.
imagine you actually
Yeah.
kicking off with everyone.
It is tough, but there is nothing like it. Like, even when I go and support the London Marathon every year, and I'm like screaming on the sidelines, I'm always crying. I feel like people of all different ages, genders, life experiences come together, and it's like you have the elite runners that it's just like
jog for them, isn't it?
Yeah, but then you get to the people that are like, they have everyone has a reason to run. It's one of those days, I think, where you realise that everyone has something in life that they're going through or have gone through. And this is a way of, like, you know, keeping a memory alive or raising money. And I just think that's a really magic thing to be part of.
It is a bit demoralising though when people in like massive rhino costumes take over you.
I knew you were going to say about the rhino. The rhino overtook me twice.
I was just say it can't have been the same guy because they kept on overtaking me.
I was like, how is a rhino overtaking me? Not once, but twice.
I know. And then people like, I saw there was one bloke who was in army fatigues, carrying what looked like a really heavy rucksack on his back, and he was like almost bent double but taking over me, and it's like, how is that possible?
I know, it's really, like, it's inspiring and it's wild and you're exhausted, you're looking around and you're like, am I really seeing that?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a great experience and I'm so pleased that I've done it, and hopefully the money that we raised is going to, you know, make a big difference, and that was the point of it. But I don't think I'm rushing to do another one soon.
Well, and there might be another reason why you can't do a marathon soon, because you're having a baby.
I'm having a baby.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I was so thrilled when I heard. It was like a close relative had told me, or I found out myself. Like, it was such beautiful news, because I know it wasn't the easiest journey to get there, and you had to go through the process with your eggs, through your cancer treatment, etc.
So, you know, I'd mentioned about the miscarriage back in 2022, and at that point, Ben and I were really, like, we were so ready to start a family, and it didn't work out. And then when I was diagnosed, I was given 2 weeks before I started my chemo to kind of rush through and do some IVF and egg retrieval. And my body was, I mean, I just had a ton of trauma, so my body wasn't in the right place. I was at the wrong part of my cycle. My cancer was a hormone-driven cancer, but to do the IVF, I needed to drive my hormones up. So there was just a lot that was going on, but we were so lucky and grateful that the opportunity was given to us to be able to squeeze that in before treatment, because that became the ultimate focus. Like, we had a few embryos frozen that were good quality. Felt so grateful that we got anything, because my body was just, like, at rock bottom. And throughout my treatment and throughout the kind of 2 years where I was actually put into a medically induced menopause as part of my treatment, that was to protect my fertility. But, you know, anyone that's been through menopausal symptoms will know it's no joke. So it's like I've been pushed into that stage of life and then kind of medically brought out of that. And I found that really tough, as I was already told I was young to be going through breast cancer, and then I'm put into a medically induced menopause, and then I'm young for that, and it was a lot. So to be able to be, but the thing is, I just kept going, because I was like, the focus is preserving my fertility as best I can and picking up this journey when my treatment is done. And so when we got to the beginning of 2025 and we were able to pick up the IVF and, like, the kind of process of coming off of my maintenance drugs and then picking up my IVF drugs was quite a shock on my body. And but again, something I kind of, like, slowly started switching from my cancer nutritionist to a fertility nutritionist. So I felt really supported, but still hormonally and emotionally it was like a big shift, because my cancer drugs had kept my hormones super low and the IVF drugs were ramping them up. So I was like, whoa.
Gosh, yeah.
But it, you know, the IVF worked, and I'm now 6 months pregnant. We've got a baby coming at the end of the year, and it's just like, it's a beautiful time, and we waited a really long time. And I think there's definitely been moments where, you know, we've watched people around us, close friends, colleagues, people that you kind of know from the TV, all having babies, growing their families, doing all of these things that it felt like Ben and I couldn't do. But now that it's our time, none of that really matters. It's just like we're back on a track that we wanted to be on, and it feels really good.
It's so exciting, isn't it?
It
And
is.
it's just, it's just, and you look lovely. You like glowing.
Thank
I had
you.
the pregnancy sweat. You got the pregnancy glow. You really have.
I feel like I'm like stretching by the second, but I'm just really like going with it. I'm just so grateful that I'm just, I didn't know whether this would happen, and I felt so focused the last few years hoping that it would, that now I'm just like, I'm just absorbing it all and trying to, there's still like the health anxiety and things like that. Like anyone that's been through a cancer journey, or anyone that's been through anything hard actually in life, the kind of journey to trust in your body again is a forever journey. And now that I'm thinking of myself and a baby, it's like that can rear its head sometimes. But I'm just confident that I'm in a healthy body, confident everything's going well, and Christmas will be very special.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank you for
coming
having
in.
me.
It's honestly,
It's been
honour to meet
lovely.
you, and we wish you the
Thank
best
you.
of luck
Thank
with everything
you.
moving forward. Before you go, we do have, Claire loves these, we have some quick fire questions
do.
that we ask all our guests
Okay, hit me with them.
that you have to answer.
Right, so Gemma and I are coming to yours and Ben's
Yes.
down in southwest London for dinner.
Okay,
What are you going to cook for us?
so Ben would do the main,
Yeah.
and do you know what we love? Just like a really kind of simple dinner. Sorry, I'm so bad at quick fire things, but we would do like a gorgeous bit of fish with some lovely potatoes, really nice salad, super fresh, super clean, but really, really tasty. And then for dessert, this is my new obsession at the moment. It's, bear with me here because this sounds really weird, but it really works. It's vanilla ice cream with like caramelized bananas and dates, but you just basically heat them up with some cinnamon and butter, and then you put that on top of the ice cream. Then you pour olive oil on top and some sea
nice.
salt. It is absolutely amazing. It sounds bonkers. It
Does
really
sound bonkers.
works.
Where did you get the idea for that?
I saw it on Instagram, and then I've made it for a few friends that have come over for dinner, and Ben has been in the kitchen for hours doing the main. I do 2-minute dessert, and it's the crowd pleaser, so that's what you'd be having.
Might have to give it a bash. What was the last thing that made you belly laugh?
Ooh, the last thing that made me belly laugh, I actually think it was something I'd seen on Instagram. So I'm in my nesting stage at the moment, and I thought that was like when you just folded all the baby grows and everything looked really lovely. And actually I am like knee deep in the cupboards trying to deep clean everything. I'm trying to declutter, I'm trying to get everything out the house. And Ben showed me a video of a new dad showing his baby round a pristine house and all the cupboards when it's first born, basically showing this baby what the mum like needed to do to prepare for the arrival. And it was just so on the money of like where we are at the moment, and it really made me belly laugh because I was like, yeah, this is ridiculous, but I can't stop.
So you're going to a desert island for 12 months and you can only take one thing. What is it?
Oh God, I hate that. I want to say my phone because that's so ridiculous. I would take, this is really random, but like I'm going to take a skipping rope. And I know that's really, really random, but it's going to keep me moving. I feel like I could use it for lots of different things. And the busier life gets, as much as my first instinct is to say the phone, actually to have 12 months without it, how amazing would that be?
Wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You know, when you're I'll be on the way home now and I'll be like, why did I say a skipping rope? But I feel like that could help me out. I need to watch more like Bear Grylls and SAS, and then I could have a really smart answer. But I feel like
We've had a lot. We've had skipping ropes. We've had
you?
We've had a football.
football's quite a good
Kindle.
We've had a Kindle.
Mozzie
we've-
spray.
Mozzie spray. A book.
Yeah.
I said the dog, which is quite bad because I've got 2 kids, but I said the dog.
one. Do you know what? I would take my dog as well, and a skipping rope.
Yeah, you got good
I'm an
company then.
overpacker. I couldn't just take one thing, but there you go.
You can choose one type of exercise to do forevermore. What is it?
strength training. Anything with dumbbells. They don't have to be heavy, but that's what I'm doing. That is the key to longevity, lifting weights.
Good answer. Coffee or wine?
Coffee. I'm missing coffee at the moment.
Yeah.
I can leave wine, but coffee for sure.
When you give birth, you'll be sending Ben out for that.
For a gallon of
strength.
coffee.
Yeah.
Cheese toasty and a coffee.
Yeah.
Is what I had.
Yeah.
Cheese pies.
I had, a strong coffee and a big filthy chocolate brownie. That
Oh,
was the
delicious.
nicest.
Good.
Delicious.
Yeah, you need to think about that first.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first. Apart from the toast, you'll get toast in the
Yeah.
hospital. That's what
It's
they
nice
give you.
to toast, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know, everyone says that.
Yeah.
The toast.
with jam and a cup of tea. Yeah.
Okay. Cup of tea and a gallon of coffee.
What's one thing someone listening today could do to make themselves feel just that little bit better?
Oh, I love that. Stop comparing yourself to other people. You know, that quote, comparison is the thief of joy. I recently wrote about this in my newsletter and a lot of women really resonated with it. I think due to the pressures of social media and life in general, it's so easy to forget what's going on in your life and how amazing your life is in all of the small little ways, or just how unique your life is to you, because we're constantly being shown other ways to be, and you can lose sight of the really beautiful things in your life. So I think that's a nice little tip for all of us.
How can people get hold of your newsletter?
So it's called the Leanne Weekly. If you go onto my Instagram, Leanne Hainsby, it's within my bio. And I've just started it and I'm loving it. I've got an amazing subscriber list and it's really building a gorgeous community of women. I love to write. I feel like I speak a lot in my job and writing is a passion of mine, and I think and so far I know it's a really gorgeous way of bringing women together and making them feel less alone and relating on different topics. Wherever we are in life, there's always something we can relate on, and so I'm really enjoying it, and I think it's a really safe, healthy, knowledgeable space for women to find.
Lovely.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for
Thank
joining us,
you.
and good luck with everything.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Yay.